in spirit and prayer.
Hello, and welcome to this interview segment for our theology issue of the Journal with One Accord. I'm contributing editor Greg Rupik, and I am very pleased to introduce Professor Maria Clara Bingemer. Professor Bingemer has, for almost 40 years, served as Professor of Fundamental Theology and the Theology of God at the Pontifical Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. She also served as Dean of the Faculty of Theology and Human Sciences. After participating in the construction of the Loyola Center for Faith and Culture at the Pontifical University in Rio, she became its chair. Co-editor of the Revista Eclesiástica Brasileira, the most important theological magazine in Brazil, she also serves on the editorial board of the International Journal of Theology Concilium. From 2004 to 2008, she was co-editor of the Journal of the American Academy of Religion and one of the founders of feminist liberation theology in Latin America. She was awarded the Brazilian Fulbright Distinguished Chair in Democracy and Human Development at the Kellogg Institute for International Studies at the University of Notre Dame. She is presently president of the Latin American Association of Literature and Theology and vice president of the Theology Society of Brazil, and her books on Trinitarian and Latin American theologies have been published in many languages, including A Face for God, The Mystery in the World, Passion for God in Times of Unbelief, Love of God, Love of Justice, and Simone Weil, Mystic of Passion and Compassion. Maria Clara, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So we're
Thank you, Greg.
absolutely. So we're going to start by asking kind of, in a way, the most natural question for this issue. What is theology, and why is the study of theology important today?
Well, I think theology is a vocation. We enter theology. Theology is a discourse that departs from two connected sources, revelation and faith. We hear the word of God and we believe in, and then we build a systematic and rigorous discourse with the help of some hermeneutical mediations. Normally philosophy, but here in Latin America we took a lot social sciences,
Hmm.
history, economy, political, and sociology. And now I'm working a lot with literature,
Hmm.
aesthetic in general, but myself, I'm working more with literature, but there are people working with music and arts because it's beginning to be more and more a hermeneutical tool to do theology. Theology is a human sciences because, well, it's a human discourse about God, a human experience, and the human systematization about God. And, well, I think it's only possible departing from out of a vocation. It's
Hmm.
not a career like others, but it has an aspect of career because there are departments of theology in the universities. But I think different from religious studies or science of religion, theology supposes faith. So
Hmm.
uh, it is it is a discourse, intelligence of faith, no? Fides queres intellectum, the faith who searches intelligence. It is.
Faith-seeking understanding, right? Was that Saint Anselm? Is that who that is? See if I can remember my own theology. I wonder, this is incredibly fascinating, and you already touched on a little bit the kind of unique hermeneutics that might be used in Latin America and the Latin American context. I wonder if you could speak about your engagement with, your involvement in liberation theology in Latin America.
Yeah. When I entered the Faculty of Theology, I had as a professor, my first professor was uh, Professor Father João Batista Libânio. He was one of the most important figures in this reception of the Council of Vatican II in the context of injustice and oppression of the Latin American continent, which was called liberation theology.
Hmm.
So I was very influenced by him. I worked with him immediately when I was still an undergrad student, and that was very important for me. So I think liberation theology. Many people ask, "Did liberation theology died?" I will give the the answer of the father of liberation theology, Gustavo Gutierrez. He said, "Well, if I'm the father, I didn't go to the funeral of my daughter. No, liberation theology is not that, because for not so positive reasons. First, one, it's poverty continues to be present and to grow. No? So liberation theology it has at the center a preferential option for the poor, and we have more and more poor with different faces, perhaps. Now the immigrants, all those people on the move, was not present at the 70s so much, but now it is. It's at the center of the causes of poverty, and well, wars are making people more and more poor. War in the Middle East, war in Ukraine, war in the Africa, etc. And this is the first reason. And the second reason is a very serious one, he said. It is a theology who have martyrs. And when you have martyrs, people who died for it, it is very serious. It doesn't die with that facility. So I think it is the only school of theology that we have in Latin America who created really a school, no? And all the new ways of doing theology that are appearing now are derivated, are children from liberation theology, the colonial theology, gender theology, the race, the black theology, etc. All that came when in Latin America we decided, the theologians in Latin America decided not to repeat Europe anymore, but to do theology from our context. And then that was very important, the method, to see, to judge, to act. It was not liberation theology who invented this method. This method is from the Action Catholique, Catholic action. It was
Mm.
a lay movement, a very strong one in the 70s. But the essential thing is that it departs from reality. Mm. That is the point of departure. Reality, and then illuminate, enlighten reality with the Word of God, and
Right.
then do theology having in mind a praxis, a practice. It's not a theoretical discourse only. It has its theoretical dimension, of course, but it is to bring to the public space the struggle of the poor to overcome injustice and famine and misery, etc.
Mm.
So liberation theology doesn't want to replace the voices of the poor by her voice, but to be besides the poor, helping them to build their own project of liberation. So I think it is alive. Yes, perhaps the forms we had in the 70s, the basic communities, they took different forms now. We have new faces of poverty, etc. But the method of liberation theology, so the shape of liberation theology is there and is bringing, no, it is leading this overcoming of the reproducing the European model. I think the whole church, Catholic Church at least, is doing that. I would remark a very important thing at my point of view. The papacy is not only European now. We had two
Mm.
popes in America. We had Franciscus from the south of America, Argentina, and now we have Robert Prevost, who is Native America and who lived many years in Peru. He considers himself Peruvian, so he is with the feet in the north and the south of America. So I think this is a tendency that Latin America starts, and it's continuing to happen in the church. So it's Latin American theology, liberation theology, wanted to bring the good news to the poor and to um, give the word to the poor so they can speak their own word in the public space.
Yeah, I'm struck by your kind of description of a lot of these, um, I suppose, more contemporary schools or disciplines within theology, like a kind of post-colonial or gender or these kinds of developments that started from these different realities and began
Yeah,
with this kind of
yeah.
praxis-oriented. So I wonder, something that seems also very tied to the Latin American context and might also be a child of liberation theology. I wonder if you can comment on it. Is something like eco-theology, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
No,
is
that's
is
another
the
one. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
is how might you understand eco-theology kind of in that Latin American and in the kind of liberation theology context?
So this is very important. In 1989, there was a big crisis, with the fall of socialism and the Berlin Wall, all that, and Lula, our worker president, lost the election in
Hmm.
Brazil. So it was a big crisis, national, international. There many people who were very engaged in the basic communities left the church because they discovered that their reasons were more political than religious and then
Hmm.
theological. But it began to appear new new ways of doing theology. And the first one was eco-theology, because
Hmm.
Leonardo Boff, who was a star in liberation theology, he had a crisis in his congregation, left the congregation, got married, etc. But he had always Franciscan charism, and he started to think about the earth, about the
Hmm.
problems of the climate crisis. And in Latin America, he developed his reflection, always uniting uh, the crisis of the climate and also the crisis of the poor. Uh,
Hmm.
Social justice, ecological justice. No, it was the base for the encyclical of Pope Francis in 2000, 2015. Yeah, it's 10 years this year. So Leonardo Boff has a famous book. It is a little bit the first book of his new subject of research, which is ecology, called "Cry of the Earth, Cry of the Poor."
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's it. So the poor present, but now opening to another field where that was increasingly important, and showed that the problem of the earth, of the meio ambiente. I don't have the word in English right now. The entorno, the yes, the earth is
Environment, yeah.
environment. Yes, environment is connected. It's very tightly connected to the injustice as a whole. Mm.
Hmm.
And well, this was one of the, and now, well, there are many groups of research. Ecotheology is growing in importance. Many people committed, many new theologians committed with it, and there is this trend also, ecofeminism. There are many women theologians thinking about the crisis of the earth, the crisis of environment, and the oppression of women.
Hmm.
As they are connected, because the body of the earth and the body of women have things in common. They are cyclical. They give fruits. If they are mistreated or injured, they get sterile, no more fertile anymore. It's very interesting, the reflection that is
Hmm.
growing up on that. So, and together with that, then a new way of thinking about gender, give the word to the poor women, because, well, the majority of poor are women, because they are
Hmm.
abandoned with their children. They take care of themselves and the children, well. And so there is a Latin American way of thinking about women and working about the women theologians, etc. Also, racism is a very important issue too. In Brazil, we have um, becoming stronger than it was before, a black theology. It's different from the black theology made in the United States. which is very important, Jim Cone, etc. It was a pioneer for us. And but now there is a whole African tradition who grew in the colonial um milieu, in the colonial time, and also the Afro-American religions who
Mm.
accepted, between brackets, the Catholicism, but in fact made a synthesis with their own gods and their own divinities and all
Mm.
the dialogue there, and how this helps to overcome racism, which is very strong still in Brazil. We had slavery till 1889. We were the last country to abolish
Oh,
slavery.
wow.
After United States, after Cuba, etc. And our population is mixed. We don't have a white population. we, the whites here are minority. The majority is mixed, and the graduations, there is the black, the mulatto, the miscegenation, the mestizaje, like called Virgilio Elizondo, one American theologian, is very present. So there is a whole theology being done there too. And well, other theology who is a child of liberation theology is the interreligious theology, because
Oh.
yeah, we have African religions here. We have the original people, the indigenous religions too. So there is more and more, and connected with the problem of the earth, the problem of the original peoples is very connected, because now we perceive that what we call wild, savage, superstitious, it's in fact the people who know how to live much better than we do, knows how to deal and to relate to nature, what we don't. We have a
Mhm.
destructive attitude towards nature, and the original peoples are have an harmonious relationship. So we have to learn with them. This is beginning to be a very strong subject in theology.
I wonder if we can reflect a little bit on that, kind of the unique perspectives that are brought to theology from one's own personal kind of subjective experience of the world, starting from one's own reality or one's own traditions and thinking theologically, or starting from one's own kind of maybe corporeal or socio, economic context and doing theology that way. I believe you've said in the past that sometimes women theologians are automatically categorized as feminist theologians, and you've attempted to kind of like, to differentiate between those two aspects of theology. So I wonder, could you kind of reflect on that distinction between, why is it the case that not all women theologians are feminist theologians?
Yeah, I think that all women theologians had received a lot from the feminist theology that was begun in the North. So women in the South are grateful to that and admire that. But I think uh, some women didn't develop their theology the same way as the feminist theology, mostly of the first wave of theology, which is a kind of antithetic theology. It's a kind of um, yeah, antagonistic theology.
Mhm.
I think there are many women who claim for equality for women, who claim for more attention to women and more presence of women in society and in the church too, but who want to walk together with men theologian too. They don't want to make a rupture. And
Hmm.
they have a different style also of doing theology. They quote masculine authors and not only feminine
Hmm.
authors. And they enter softly and carefully in delicate issues. Like abortion, etc., because they want to stay in the church. They don't want to break with the church. Huh?
Right.
in spite of the difficulties and the suffering many times, because the church is still very patriarchal, the
Mm.
Catholic Church mostly. Together with that, the ecumenism helps that, because we Catholic women, we have a lot of contact and friendship with Protestant theologians. Many of them are pastors and are
Hmm.
bishops. So we see that in historical Christianity, this is possible. And it is present at the future, but it is a long future. And I think my generation won't see it. Perhaps the generation that comes before, after me, won't see that. But well, the important is that we hope is that we hope for the others, we hope for the futures, and if the future generation arrive there, I think it is very important. In fact, I think that the people of God are working for that, because they accept very well the women ministries, they accept very well women theologian, they accept it very well, the lay
Hmm.
people, the people of God. So I think this is creating space. I think women in the church, theologians, they have to occupy the spaces that are available. And occupying space, the visibility is growing, grows, grows, grows. And that's the way to do things, I think. The direct confrontation never worked in the church. And also, it also impacts on the style, the style of doing theology. I think
Hmm.
even in the feminist, not the feminist theology, but feminism in general, they had the first wave, they have the second wave, now they are in a third wave. I think they saw that it was important to make changes. And I think this is the proof that is a lively thinking. It's alive. So everything that is alive changes. Everything that is alive moves. No? So I think there are many, more than one profile of a woman theologian, not only the feminist one.
I love that. And actually touching back on style, and not to differentiate too much from substance, but I think that Pope Francis, for instance, is an example of at least a pope whose style of doing theology and of including these certain kinds of conversations has obviously left an impact on the church. And I wonder specifically, as you mentioned earlier, how, this American Pope, this Latin American Pope, what do you think that the legacy will be from this Latin American Pope with his style on the future of the church?
Well, I hope his legacy will be very strongly um, taken care, and try to make it grow and never forget and make it present. I
Hmm.
think we have to take responsibility for that now. For us, Latin Americans, it was a spring. It was really a fresh air who came. I remember hearing to Pope Francis in the beginning of the pontificate, I heard and I saw the Vatican II is back, because the
Hmm.
language of Vatican II, it seemed that it disappeared. It was
Hmm.
very shocking, and now it was back. The poor was were the center of the discourse and and the concern, etc. And the informal style, the making the figure of the Pope to be closer to the normal
Hmm.
people, showing
Yeah.
that to be a Pope is not to be a king or a monarch or something strange, but no, it's to be together with others. I think Pope Leo made a public commitment to take ahead the synodality, no, the synod on synodality, the process of synodality. If this really happens, it's already very good, because within the model of a synodal church, every other thing enters, because a synodal church is a church that walks together, and
Hmm.
listen one to the other and discern the spirit in conversation. So
Hmm.
I'm hopeful, and the legacy of Pope Francis will always be there. Mostly, I think the most important things, all his writings are very important, but I think Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti, who have to be read together, are inaugurated a new chapter in Catholic social thought, and they will stay. They will really stay.
That's wonderful. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you on behalf of all of our readers of the journal. And we're looking forward to seeing all the work that you're going to be doing into the future as you carry Pope Francis's legacy forward. So thank you for the time, Maria Clara.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. It was a pleasure.